This is a University of Waikato presentation. No te whare wānanga Waikato tēnei kōrero. Visit us online at waikato.ac.nz.
Kia ora. I've just been sitting in my study attempting to write a long-winded description of Charles Handy's Sigmoid Curve model of change and decided that I was trying to push mud uphill. So I thought I'd do it in pictures rather than words. So let's have a look at it. Here are the two axes. This is time and this is performance. Says Handy, all organizations can chart their performance, and when they do, over varying periods of time, depending on the nature of the organization, this is what happens, is that their performance can be represented by a sine wave. It peaks and it troughs and peaks and it troughs. So whether you're the national government, the warehouse, the University of Waikato, it doesn't matter, that's likely to be your performance. Says Charles Handy, there are 2 points on the graph, let's call them A and B, that are really crucial. When an organization reaches point B, it's on a downhill trend. It's about to bottom out. And when it gets to about that point, members of the organization realize that. And so in order to turn the organization around, they go to point A and they say, what were we doing here? Let's identify all of those things and we'll simply do more of them here at point B. And they do. And lo and behold, what happens? The organization turns around. And they congratulate themselves on their incredibly fine work. In fact, it has nothing to do with their work. It's bottomed out and changed direction simply because of the natural consequence of the sine wave. Says Handy, if you want to introduce change, probably the most appropriate place to do it is here at point A, not at point B. Why? Well, you have upward momentum. You're probably financially sound. If you're a school, your absentee rates are low, your staff turnover is low, your student achievement rates are high, all of those really good things that go up to make an effective school. So if you're going to change here, not where the organization's on a downward trend and you've lost a lot of that momentum and a lot of that community support. Says Handy, when you introduce change, you're likely to get a bit of a dip, what he calls implementational dip. So when you introduce change here, that's what the graph looks like. But of course, importantly, when it crosses the sine wave, instead of crossing it point B in a downward direction, it crosses it in an upward direction. And so you have the start of a new sine wave. And inevitably, then there is a new point A and a new point B. And so when you introduce change, again you get that implementational dip and a new sine wave. This is starting to look quite messy, isn't it? And unless I get a ladder and a new whiteboard, I'm not going to be able to go much higher. Importantly though, if you have a look at this, if you were simply to do what you've always done, there's the same point A, the same point B, the same point A, etc. And so the graph representing your organizational performance, your improvement in performance, doesn't look particularly healthy. If, on the other hand, you were to graph this, that's the improvement in your performance curve. So, says Handy, what you need to do is to identify point A, and when you're going to implement change, implement it at point A. Just accept that you're going to have an implementational dip. It's not rocket science. When we start doing something new, we're not nearly as good at doing it as we are when we're doing something that we've done for 100 years before. Aha, I hear you say as you sit at your computer screen, there is a problem. Indeed, there is a problem. And here it is. How on earth do you identify point A? Well, I guess I've already given some indication by saying there are external factors, external accounts, if you like, that you can use of your own organization in order to decide whether it's on an upward trend or a downward trend. So is it that side of the graph or that side of the graph, of the wave? We actually asked a group of about 14 principals over an extended period of time, over a few years, to identify, in the first instance, where they were, where their school was, rather, on this graph. And then we asked them around about the same time each year for a number of years. And you know that with very few exceptions, they actually got it right. They said, we're here. And then a little while later, when we said, we'd like you to estimate it again, they said, ooh, what did I say last time? We said, well, what you said last time is irrelevant. And they said, well, we're probably about here. Or they started here and they said, well, we've actually continued on a downhill trend. We're probably down here. And they were generally very accurate. So it's not actually that difficult to identify where you are on the sine wave. There is a lighter side, of course. Can you imagine the principal of the school coming into the staff room at 8:15 in the morning and saying, well, ladies and gentlemen of the college, I have good news and bad news. The good news, I was at a board meeting last night and they all said what a wonderful job we were doing, and the board has specifically asked me to convey to you their thanks, blah, blah, blah. Everything is going swimmingly, famously, we're performing exceptionally. And now let's change. It jars a little, doesn't it? But in fact, that's what you need to do. You need to make use of that upward momentum. So that's a potted version, I guess, of Charles Handy's sigmoid curve model. When you're writing online, when you post online, try talking about the sigmoid curve model as well. Kia ora.
This presentation was brought to you by the University of Waikato. Nā te whare wānanga o Waikato tēnei kōrero. Visit us online at waikato.ac.nz.